Hello, and welcome to Ten-Sational, the channel which aims to list a series of different categories from 10 to 1. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at wrestlers from the Attitude Era, and beyond, to determine who stands out above the rest. Let's dive right in. Number 10, Randy Orton. One of the most decorated performers in history, Orton could feel aggrieved at only being number 10. Whilst he may have more titles than some people on this list, his in-ring style sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired. There is no doubt that when he's on it, there isn't many better. In the less interesting storylines, Orton's performances can come across slow and methodical, and he isn't always the most entertaining to watch. He's at his very best when he's being a dastardly heel and has had a series of almighty feuds down the years, most memorably with John Cena and the other members of Evolution. Despite the criticism by some fans, Orton always has the ability to generate a huge pop when he slithers into position and delivers his meme-friendly finisher, the RKO. The Viper is still going strong today and is one of the true big names who is still competing. Talking of that, number 9, Edge. What a story. The man who had to retire prematurely and suddenly due to a serious injury, made a dramatic return as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble in 2020. Many thought such a thing would never be possible, but Edge proved everyone wrong and even continued beyond that, and is still wrestling as of today. It took a while for Edge to make it to the top. In his tag team with Christian, he was always the standout member but never got the chances to progress up the card. Once the brand split happened and new stars were needed, Edge finally got the call and took his chance with both hands. His intense, fast-paced style was a joy to watch, and it led to him winning a series of titles down the years. Heel or face, Edge was always a must-see player and had many great tussles. His TLC matches with the Dudley Boys and the Hardys will always be mentioned amongst the greatest to have ever been. Number 8, Chris Jericho. Probably the most versatile man to have ever been in WWE, Jericho has turned his hand to a number of different characters. Whether it be the long-haired Y2J, or the list maker of recent times, each reincarnation proved equally as compelling as the last. He also had the ring skills to complement each personality, so it's fair to say Jericho really did have it all. His most famous win, which he didn't stop mentioning himself, was the night he beat both Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night to become the unified heavyweight champion. Although that victory didn't quite make him the star that Vince McMahon hoped it would, Jericho had the uncanny ability to go up and down the card seemingly at will, and never feel out of place. Whether it be a mid-card comedy angle or a headlining title match, the presence of Jericho meant it couldn't be missed. Knowing his audience was always Jericho's biggest strength as a performer, and he'll go down as one of the best mic men ever. You know you're doing something right if you can get the word over with the crowd. Number 7, Shawn Michaels. It felt wrong placing someone of Michaels' caliber this far down the list. In terms of pure wrestling matches, there has probably never been anyone better. He excelled in whatever role he was playing at the time, whether it be total outright bad guy, or an anti-authority, cool, babyface. There were always murmurings behind the scenes that Michaels was really difficult to get on with. It wasn't until an injury forced him to retire from in-ring action for 4 years between 1998 and 2002 that gave Michaels the time off and a chance to rethink his life. Once he returned, the Heartbreak Kid was reformed, and arguably had an even better run than his first time around. His career is littered with huge moments. The on-off partnership with Triple H where they formed Degeneration X, the infamous Montreal screw job against his big rival Bret Hart, or the feud with The Undertaker. It was a match against the Deadman which many people believe is the best match of all time. Number 6, The Undertaker. Have we finally let The Undertaker rest in peace? Nobody can say for sure. The Phenom just keeps coming back, and with the new style of cinematic matches, his age may no longer have to be the death knell to his career. His Boneyard match against AJ Styles was a classic, and fans certainly wouldn't say no to a few more in a similar ilk. Talking of classics, Undertaker has a whole back catalogue of them. The previously discussed match against Shawn Michaels was only one of many he had at WrestleMania. Following on from Michaels' retirement, his old partner Triple H was the next man to try and defeat the streak The Undertaker held at the biggest wrestling show of the year. That, too, was a fantastic, dramatic battle. Maybe his most controversial moment was the famous Hell in a Cell match where Mick Foley almost lost his life with 2 huge falls from the top of the cell. Someone who never needed the championship to be credible, Taker relied on the strength of his character work to remain at the top of the card. It truly is a remarkable achievement that, even today, he can pull off playing a dead man and it not come across as hokey. Even when he switched it up completely and became the American badass, he was still adored by the fans. Number 5, Triple H. It was very tough to place Triple H on this list. He's always been someone who has been enjoyed and respected as a pure wrestler but at the same time, criticized for his methodical, slow pace. He's always been seen as one of the best on the microphone but at the same time, criticized for his long-winded promos where he doesn't really say much. He's always been someone who has always stayed at the top, but criticized on how he got there, burying several talents along the way. When it comes down to it, the sheer amount of high-profile, entertaining, segments and matches cannot be ignored. He garnered one of the biggest pops of all time at MSG when he returned from a lengthy injury layoff, demonstrating the fans' admiration of him. Throughout the years, he's faced off against pretty much anybody who's anybody, which speaks to his longevity in the business. Even now, it wouldn't be a surprise to see him become the game yet again, and be involved in future big matches. Triple H always evolved to what was required of him, making him a very versatile character. To get over as a main eventer in the time of The Rock and Stone Cold's dominance warrants him his place here. Number 4, John Cena. For someone with the catchphrase of "You can't see me," he made himself very prominent so everybody definitely could see him. Generic wrestler John Cena made an impactful debut, slapping then top bad guy, Kurt Angle, and officially launching the Ruthless Aggression era. The momentum was never truly capitalized on, and Cena drifted back into the shuffle. On the verge of his release, a chance moment of Stephanie McMahon hearing him rap and advising him to add that to his character changed everything. The Doctor of Thugonomics was born. From that point on, Cena stood out from the pack and got the push he was always destined for. He went on to win a record 16 World Championships, equaling the number of the legendary Ric Flair. There is still potential to add to that tally, as there has been no word of any pending retirement. Hate to love him, or love to hate him, you have to respect him. He has been the only true star WWE have had since The Rock, and has built up a legacy to rival absolutely anybody. Number 3, Brock Lesnar. Easily the most controversial entry on the list, but you wouldn't tell him that. Lesnar's big appeal is that he is a legitimate, intimidating, tough guy, which makes all of his matches so interesting. Everyone who faces him instantly becomes an underdog, and any victory over Lesnar immediately boosts the profile of the victor. There is no doubt that the style of his matches have changed a lot from his original run, going from longer, varied bouts, to more fast-paced, intense shorter tussles. However, it hasn't impacted the enjoyment. Lesnar is always there to be called upon when Vince McMahon requires a big match feel again. His mercenary-like, fleeting appearances are the reason why some fans don't respect him. However, the rarity of seeing him does add to the importance when he actually shows up. The man who ended the iconic Undertaker winning streak, and had potentially the best Royal Rumble stint of all time in 2020 has to be ranked this high on the list. Honorable mentions: Batista, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Kane, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley. Number 2, The Rock. He may not be number 1 on this list, but he certainly is the biggest star WWE have ever produced. The Rock is probably known more by Dwayne Johnson these days, as he's become the go-to man in Hollywood. Johnson's rise in wrestling was steady, but inevitable. His ability to connect with audiences, paired with his unmatched charisma, were a recipe to success. Nobody generated the buzz he did whenever he was on screen or in the ring. His rivalry with Stone Cold felt absolutely huge, and the fans really were split down the middle on who they wanted to win. Mick Foley teamed with Rock to form the Rock and Sock Connection, probably the most popular manufactured tag team there has ever been. A rare moment for the Brahma Bull was when he faced off against the immortal Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. For the first time, the fans actually turned on him and sided with the bad guy Hogan. Even when The Rock himself was a villain, the fans adored him too much to actually hate him, they just found him even more funny. There hasn't been an entertainer since that has exuded such personality, and Johnson continues to be someone all wrestlers strive to be like. Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The man who was at the height of his career as the industry got to its own new heights. Some would say it's because of Austin that it actually happened. The truth is somewhat that, but also down the fact Austin could face off against so many top-quality opponents that caused huge interest. Everyone tuned in each week to see what Austin was going to do next to his boss and arch-nemesis Vince McMahon. The rattlesnake was living out the secret wishes of most employees, who wish they could get one over on their bosses, and it was this connection to the everyday person which made him so beloved to audiences. The glass shattering at the beginning of his entrance music was usually the catalyst for the fans to erupt with wild jubilation knowing what was about to happen. Austin holds several moments which will live in the memory of fans of the product during the Attitude Era, most notably his epic arrival to save WWE from the WCW invasion and the night he helped Mick Foley win his first championship. Austin was never the greatest wrestler in the ring, but was more than capable of holding his own with anyone. It was a shame the injuries led to a premature end to his career, as fans would have loved to see him step in the ring just one more time. Please like, share and subscribe.